What up? Hey, what up, though? What up? Hey, what up, though? What up? Hey, what up, though? What up? Hey, what up, though?
What up, though, YouTube? Welcome to Lukegsfieldreview. We are back at it again with another list of Detroit Lions draft prospects. This time, we're going to take a look at the receivers. Now, this video is going to be a little bit longer, so I do pre-warn you because there are at least 12 prospects, and you're going to want to see who they are. The first thing that I happened to notice about these prospects were they were all bigger receivers who were able to not only play big and get vertical, but they had some ability in the return game. And the receivers who were not as big were all route running technicians who had some ability in the return game. So let's get this thing going. We're going to start off with Jamar Curtis, senior wide receiver out of Syracuse. As you can see, he's 6'5", 213. He finished the season with 51 receptions for 906 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's a 17.8 yard average. As you can see right here in 2017, right here, he only had 8 catches, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. But as you can see, he definitely stepped it up his senior year, and maybe because, you know, it's the draft. Next up, we have N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State, 6'4", 213, 73 receptions, 1,088 yards, 9 touchdowns, 14.9 yard average. And as you can see right here, the previous year in 2017, he had 82 receptions, 1,142 yards, a 13.9 average, 8 touchdowns. I mean, if you just look at his stats alone, he's been a production guy. Now, they visit him at his pro day, and I didn't say this before on Jamar Curtis, but they also visit him at Syracuse pro day. But this is one of those guys that I know a lot of Lions fans will like, and you know, he could be a potential person. The question becomes, does he fall to the second round? Because I would be very shocked if they took a wide receiver in the first round. But nonetheless, again, he has shown some ability to be versatile in terms of the return game and on reverse play. So next up, we have David Seals, West Virginia wide receiver, 6'4", 210 pounds, 65 receptions, 986 yards, 15 touchdowns, people. 15 touchdowns. That's a 15.2 yard average on his catching. But look at this production here. Okay? And if you're wondering what's so special about these trends, these are red zone threats, and these are people that they're looking at. In 2017, he had 60 receptions for 980 yards, a 16.3 yard average, 18 touchdowns, people. And to me, when you just take these 2 years right here in terms of production, that's impressive. That's very impressive. And to me, I think this is one of the things that you're going to see the Lions getting more into, and that's being able to create a red zone presence. Now, they visit Mr. Steele at his pro day, and I did not see any other information in terms of a second visit, but they did speak to him. Next up, we have Justin Sumter, Kennesaw State wide receiver, 6'3", 217. As you see, there's nothing right here, and that's because my computer's just acting up. I don't know why. And on top of it, you're going to notice that some of the stats are missing. I did try to go to the conference website to get the stats up, and for some reason couldn't find them. But here's the thing, people. He did show four receptions in 15, 4 touchdowns. 8 receptions in 16, 8 touchdowns. 5 receptions in 17, 5 touchdowns. 4 receptions, 4 touchdowns. And again, he's 6'3", 217. Again, I think this is going to be a late round draft pick for him, where they just want to kind of get a feel for him. They also looked at a few other players at this particular pro day, but you know, I wish I had more information to give. I just don't. But from the film that I saw, which was not the best quality that I had to work with, I saw a little something, but he's one of those guys who do likes those jump balls. Next up, we have Kellen Doss, wide receiver out of UC Davis. He's 6'3", people. I mean, you're gonna notice this trend, 209 pounds. Again, you don't see anything here, and it's because that this thing is very finicky. But as you can see in terms of production, 2 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 8 and 9. And so what I did was, in a fairly best, I was able to pull up the conference information. And so what we see here now is something totally different. He's played in 44 games. He's had 11 rushes for 124 yards. That's the 11.3 yard average per rush. He's had 1 touchdown on that. But then you go and look at his receptions, and he's had 321 receptions in 4 seasons with the UC Davis Aggies. And then on top of that, he's got 4,069 yards. Now you may be wondering, that's nothing special, but it's 28 total touchdowns, people. And again, when I tried to find film on him, it was not the best. And so what I found out was they spoke with him at the combine, and apparently this was one of their longer interviews. So, I mean, again, this could be another one of those late round guys. And once I'm done with my complete entire visits list, I'll give you my theory on what we're seeing in terms of trends and patterns. But again, another big guy who can get up there, people. Next up, we have Emmanuel Hall, Missouri Tiger wide receiver. He's a senior. He's 6'3", 195. He's had 37 receptions, 828 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's 22.4 average. I think that's a phenomenal average per catch, in my opinion. When we look more at his details from the previous year, he's had 33 receptions, 817 yards, 24.8 yard average. I mean, those are huge. That means that this guy is going to get this ball deep. He's got 8 touchdowns. His longest catch in 2017 was 63 yards. In 2018 was 67 yards. And even when I go through and I look at the 2 previous years, there was enough for you to let you know that he's getting those deep bombs. I mean, a 49-yard catch. So when I watched the film on him, I was impressed with some things that I saw, and there's some things that I saw that was concerning. But again, I'll leave that to you guys to go and do your own film study on these people. I'm just going to show you who they are. But again, notice the height, and I want y'all to understand that this is going to be a trend. A lot of these guys are going to be tall who can play in the return game, but they're also going to be red zone and deep threats. Okay, so just FYI. Next up, we have Gary Jennings Jr. He's a senior out of West Virginia, 6'2", 215, 54 receptions, 917 yards, 13 touchdowns, 17.0 average. That was impressive because you look at it, you see 13 receptions. But when I go to 2017, 97 receptions, 1,096 yards, 11.3, 1 touchdown. And again, the longest catch was 60. Last year was 75. The year before that was 58 and 64. All deep red zone threats. I mean, I wish I could make this up, but you know, even when we take a look at some of the other information in terms of return guy, he's got return ability, and these are the things that you are looking at in terms of versatility that Bob Quinn and the Lions are looking at. So, I mean, when I watched this film, I certainly saw some things that I was like, okay, he's going to be a mid-round pick, somewhere between the 3rd and 4th round, and I was like, hey, you know, I can see some people getting excited about this kid. Now, they visit with him at his pro day. You know, he was one of those guys that they visit with at the pro day. So that lets you know that they was in West Virginia. So anytime you hear that I say pro day, they was at those schools pro day. They was at Syracuse. They was at Missouri. They was at West Virginia. Okay. You know, they was at Kennesaw State. So just FYI, people. Next up, we have Cody Thompson out of Toledo, 6'2", 205. I've told you, pay attention to the height. If you feel like going to check and you want to make sure that the heights are more accurate, because ESPN does sometimes inflate information or use what they have, I should say, provided to them by the schools. You can go and look at NFL.com and look at the combine results and get those measurements if you care. I'm just giving you a quick overview. But 48 receptions, 647 yards, 10 touchdowns, 13.5 yard average. What's more telling to me is this right here. Look at some of these longest receiving yards: 81, 78, 88. And then when you go through the year before that, he had 28 receptions and still had 537 yards. I mean, which is not a huge significant drop considering that he had 20 more receptions in 2018. And in 2016, he had 64 receptions, had 1,269 yards, a 19.8 yard average, 11 touchdowns. I mean, right here alone, if you just look at the production in terms of the touchdowns, just the touchdowns, this is 30 touchdowns right here, people. And again, when we go down just a little bit further, what do you know? He actually can return kicks. And so I'm just showing you that as the shorter they get, the more you're going to notice that they have ability in the return game, whether it be kick or punt. So just FYI, just wanted to share that. They did visit with him at the local pro day. So they were at Toledo as well. Next up, we have Alex Wesley out of Northern Colorado. Again, 6 feet, 184. You're not going to see no information up here because, again, you know, a lot of these smaller schools don't get the coverage they deserve, even though they probably should. 2 years of returning here, and I mean, he's got some kick returning ability. So, in order to kind of see what he did, we go over and look at the official results for him. So they've tried to use him in the run game on reverses, five attempts, 7 yards. You know, I mean, nothing here, but 57 receptions this past season, and that's for 1,050, 4 touchdowns. And when I look at it, I say, okay, he's got a little height, he's got, you know, a little bit of production here. When I watch the film, which again, these smaller schools don't do a good job of producing their films, they really should. You know, if you're a small school scout out there, or you work for a small school, you need to get some people in there who understand videography, who can produce highlight films on YouTube, because I guarantee you scouts are using it. But again, he's got his longest one was 62 yards. And then we go to the returns, 5 returns for 62 yards. Again, his longest return was 23, but he has some versatility. I think this is another one of those later round draft guys, maybe 5th, 6th, or 7th in that end. But nonetheless, I mean, from the film that I saw, it was not the best, but I saw just now. Let me just start by saying that I didn't say where they visit with Mr. Alex Wesley, I believe it was. They visit with him at the Senior Bowl. So just FYI. Now we're going to come up with someone who I have been getting blown up about doing a film study on. I do apologize. I'm slow on it because I still work that 9 to 5, and it's a lot to take in and to do. But nonetheless, it's Georgia wide receiver Mecole Hardman. As you can see, he's 5'11", 183 pounds, 34 receptions, 532 yards, 7 touchdowns, 15.6 yard average. And when we get down here into it, as you can see, in 2018, he didn't do too bad. He had a few rushing attempts, 5 for 36. But then in 2017, 481 yards on 25 receptions, 4 touchdowns. And the thing that I've realized about him is, like I told you, the shorter that they get, they're looking for route running technicians who can get in and out their cuts in the middle of the field and make catches. And when I watch the film on this guy, he do just that. On top of that, he has the ability in the return game. He's had a little bit of return game playing. And when we go over and just take another look at some other different stats in terms of what he's bringing to the table right here. As I said, that versatility. And look at this. He's a returner. So we know that he can be used in the run game. We know that he can be used in the pass game. We know that he can be used in the return game, whether it's kick and punt. And we know that he can run routes and get in and out of his cuts to provide separation. This is a guy that I've been meaning to do film study on, but there's a lot going on and I'm trying to get, faster at it. Maybe if I get a chance to make this thing full time, I'll get to it. But this is a guy that they were very excited to see, and from what I read, they had a very long conversation. And again, they met with excuse me. They met with Mr. Harmon at the combine, and it's even been said that they went to his pro day. Next, we have Deontay Johnson, another Toledo Rocket receiver, 5'11", 181, 49 receptions, 761 yards, 8 touchdowns, 15.5 yard average. Beautiful numbers to look at. I mean, even when we go to 2017, 74 receptions, 1,278 yards, 17.3 yard average, 13 touchdowns. But again, I want y'all to pay attention to certain little things. The longest reception in 2017 was 89, and 2018 was 80. Deep threat. I keep trying to tell y'all, and the shorter they are, it's about volume. And as you can see right here, the receptions that they're getting, they're using them in volume. But then we go down and we look at that versatility. What do you know? He does kick and punt return. 2018, he had 13 attempts, 241 yards, a touchdown that went on that, and that's on punt. On kickoff, he had 16 attempts, 412 yards, 1 touchdown that went 98 yards. The year before that, on punt, he had 4 punts that went for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. That was 87 yards. I mean, I'm trying to break the code for you people and how Bob Quinn is viewing these players. He's looking for people who brings versatility. This again is another one of those mid to late round guys. We're talking maybe like 4th to 5th, possibly 6th round pick. But again, another guy who fits the bill of versatility. Y'all need to start getting excited about who they're looking at. Next up, we have the shortest of the receivers that they've spoken with, and you'll find that he's probably one of the more route running technicians and more sound persons on this list, but you're going to find something interesting about it. John Irsay out of Hawaii, 5'10", 175, 89 receptions, people, 1,343 yards. That's 5th in all of the NCAA, people. 16 touchdowns. That's 1st in all of the NCAA. 15.1 yard average. And if you think that's not impressive, the longest one he got was 80 yards. In 2017, it was 85. In 2017, he got 47 receptions for 667 yards, 14.2 average, 5 touchdowns. And in 2016, 53 receptions for 652 yards, 3 touchdowns. So what makes this guy special? Well, you can use him in the run game, but again, what do we see? He's a returner. I'm trying my best to walk you through it, but you know, every time I get you to the water, you don't seem thirsty. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have more accurate heights and weights and things like that, please go check out NFL.com and look at the combine results. If you want to kind of get a more overview, check those guys out. I am encouraging everyone to do their own film study, because you better believe I did mine. And so with that being said, that's going to be all for today. As always, please don't be no chump. Please do your research.